Okay, here we go. All right, we're going to be the latest. Yep. Where is Kylie? We don't know. We're trying to find out. That's one thing for sure. Now, we're also going to talk with attorney Stephanie Murphy. We also had a standoff in North Kingstown this morning. Wickford Point. First one on scene. As I was leaving, Channel 10 was arriving. Now, some people then say, well, there were other people. No, there weren't other people there. They only showed up because I posted on X. All right, the X sound is fine. We're going to talk with our legal expert attorney, Stephanie Murphy, and also give you the latest. I want to just touch on one. Here's one of the things is just people don't read. People don't read. The more I do this and the longer I do it, I have to accept that people don't read. People ask a lot of questions, but they're not reading. They have to be told. So even if we say it's written right there, you just read it. Can't you just tell me what it says? You know what? Maybe there's more people illiterate than we're aware of. There's a lot of misinformation about the missing girl. We're going to talk about that. And then some other stories as well. I believe, there we go. Our Facebook sound is fine. There's Pat. Someone asked me, what happened in North Kingstown? And my reaction is, wait a minute. Aren't you one of those Karen Reed people? Screw, beat it. This is a non-Karen Reed broadcast page. I want nothing to do with those people. Also with the missing girl, Kylie, that we're going to talk about. Someone said, well, who knows with Massachusetts State Police? I mean, after the Karen Reed trial, I'm not even going to get into it. Why take the bait? There was nothing wrong with the police investigation into Karen Reed. So, but folks, I'm very happy. Oh, whoa, okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, we're going to start in just 3 minutes. There was nothing wrong with the police investigation. I'm not going to get into it, but because the Massachusetts State Police are there, other than the Proctor, and I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not. Other than the Proctor texts, there was nothing wrong with the investigation. Enough of this foolishness. God, someone asked me, well, what happened in North Kingstown? Excuse me. Why don't you go ask your little Reed friends? What do you think? I forget about that stuff? No. Well, that sounds vindictive. It's very vindictive. What are you, nuts? Very vindictive. Okay. How great was Sheriff Mark Lamb yesterday? He was just terrific. Guy is a hero. Roger says we're ready to go at 106. All right, good. Let me just do this. We'll give you the latest. Now we have more video. I'm going to say this. People are probably not going to listen and follow. But we have information on DePietro.com that other people don't have. Now, we are going to speak with attorney Stephanie Murphy to start us off. And then we will talk about the latest on, this has now been, it's going on a full week. It is now, I believe, last Thursday. It's a little difficult. Was the last time that anyone was hearing from her, in touch with Kylie. Now, again, if I can't stress enough, we have information up on the website, DePietro.com. I say that even though I know people then won't go and read it. Listen, no one loves video more than I do, but we've become a society that where people occasionally, you do need to still read. But you know what I don't mean to go on oh, wow. Okay. 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 After 2. We're going to start. All right, folks. Good afternoon again on this. We are live. Now, again, as I'd like to say, we're live on AM 1380. We're live on 99.9 FM. You can also find us right now as we speak. We're live on Facebook, which we're about to hit 100,000 followers. We're live on X, and we are live on YouTube. And I want to remind you, it's funny. People in different situations, I'm not going to say which situations, but sometimes people in different situations find themselves where either themselves or a coworker or a family member could use some legal advice. And so what I try to stress to people is, okay, I'll accept that your brother watches 48 Hours, or your brother watches Law and Order, or the person that sits next to you at work has watched Suits. But all I'm suggesting is there's many times where it would be very helpful to speak to an attorney. It could be for yourself. It could be for a family member. Could be someone that you work with. Now, we are going to be riding again with Westerly Police. Many of the people that we encounter after they have situation with the police, they need some guidance over the weekend. Over this past weekend, I just remembered it. Someone contacted me. I don't think it was the person, unless it's one of those people, asking for a friend. But it was someone that said, a coworker, friend of mine, is in need of some legal advice. Is there someone, who is that person? I think he said that you speak to, you recommend. I said, I'm glad you asked. Stephanie Murphy, call her office right now. Marin, Barrett, and Murphy, 401-228-8271. Why not just, sometimes someone definitely needs legal advice. Otherwise, phone call, tell Stephanie your situation. Maybe there's a second conversation. Maybe there's a third, but maybe you don't know until you call. 401-228-8271. Marin, Barrett, Murphy, 50 years combined Rhode Island criminal defense experience. Your fight becomes their fight. Now, let's bring her on. Joining us right now is, in fact, and it is funny, and I just actually kind of remembered that, is, in fact, Stephanie Murphy. Good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hi, John. How are you?
Very well, Stephanie. Stephanie, I want to start off this very high-profile situation out of Cranston and horrible with what has happened here, where you have seemingly the facts we have. Cranston police, and on Monday were investigating a young boy from Providence, apparently 16, found shot to death in Cranston, and then on Tuesday they made an arrest. And it was a 19-year-old from Fall River. Now, as we're speaking, there is apparently on the video they have, there was a third person there. So 3 arrived in the vehicle. 1, the person they have in custody, they claim was the shooter, pulls out a weapon, and then the other 2 leave. The third person is still out there. What I would like to do is, in a situation like this, what would you suggest? What would be your advice to the potential suspect that's still out there?
Well, as we spoke about in the past, I think it's always better to be the person to turn yourself in than to get picked up by the police, especially from a safety point of view. They know there was a murder. They know there's a shooting. So if the police are coming out to get you, they might assume that you have a gun. It's safety for the officers and the safety for the person they're arresting. So I would definitely advise to call our office. We could speak to the family member, speak to the person, arrange a time for them to be brought into the Cranston police station. And then from there, the Cranston police would take that person to the courthouse. We would be with them at the courthouse for the arraignment. And that whole process just goes a lot more smoothly if you have an attorney. If you don't do it that way, you can get picked up on a Friday night, get held until Monday, not have an attorney show up with you at court. And it just kind of makes the process a lot more difficult than it has to be. So I would definitely recommend, whether it's a minor crime, a major crime, call an attorney, get them to call the police department, arrange a time to turn yourself in, arrange a time for you to go to court with an attorney. I just think it goes a lot smoother. And if you have a chance at getting bail or anything like that, your chances go up dramatically if you turn yourself in.
Stephanie, I like how you always say, and you have said here, it's always better to go to the police before they find the police before they find you, because it's going to be a different equation if they have to come and find you.
I mean, especially with videos and, the ID of the other people and stuff like that. It's not a case where, there's no video and it's just a vague physical description of somebody. I think the police know exactly who they're looking for. And it just always makes a lot of sense to turn yourself in on your terms. And also we hear about all these awful stories of police coming and police officers getting shot at or the defendant getting shot at. And it avoids that entire encounter. And I just think it goes a lot more smoothly.
That is a really good point. And I know for a fact on Monday night, they had an address they were checking out in Providence, Joslyn Street, and police, just as you said, there's a weapon involved. They show up with the SWAT. They have the Bearcat, they call it. And, a lot of things can go wrong in a situation like this. I want to play this out just a little bit. 3 arrive. 1 person clearly is shot. There's 2 then jump in the vehicle, but they're wearing, my understanding, they're wearing disguises kind of. They have these very lightweight, but they're wearing like masks or hoods. So, it's not exactly, from what I understand, it's not exactly easy to be able to pick out exactly who it is that is in the video, so to speak. So what is that? Just walk down that road a little bit. If the other person was in the car. Yes.
Right. I think if the police, as in this case, they have 1 person, that person who's ever gets caught first or goes to the police station first might get an opportunity to talk to the police. And that might, help the police in their investigation and help the person who's talking. So you never know what the police know or what they don't know. A lot of times, the media and the public aren't aware of everything the police or the investigation knows for a variety of reasons, which makes sense. But you never know in a case like this, maybe, they have eyewitness identifications of them all hopping the car together or showing up at a gas station later on that day. There's a lot of stuff that I think police need to keep, under their vest and not really share with the public. And there's also the possibility that people are cooperating with the police. That's always a very realistic possibility. So I think the police know probably a lot more than we know right now. And that's just part of their investigation.
Now, there was a stolen vehicle. Have you ever had a situation with a client where someone says, hey, listen, I stole the car. I didn't know that there was a weapon in the car?
I think that's used a lot, whether or not it's a very truthful defense or not. But there's a lot of charges of possession, of a firearm and stuff like that. And it's the driver of the vehicle, the gun's found in the back seat, and the driver says they have no idea it was somebody else. I think that's used a lot. I'm sure sometimes it is absolutely true. But it definitely comes down to the credibility of what they're saying, where the firearm was, how well they know the other people in the car, if it's their car, if they just borrowed a car, or even a rental car.
One more question on this. The third suspect or second suspects, there's 2 suspects. One is deceased, the victim. But the other suspect that's out there, again, just to go down the path, it's very possible that they could claim that they didn't know this was going to happen, because the flip side is, isn't it possible that person could be charged conspiracy that basically makes them the same as the gunman?
Right. Under the conspiracy law, you're absolutely right, John, that I know the classic incident that people talk about is, hey, you're driving your friend to the gas station. Your friend gets out of the gas station. You have no idea that they're going to go and rob, the gas station. They go and they rob it. They hop back in the car. You had no idea what was going on. You're just as guilty as a person who walked into the gas station under those set of facts. Maybe there's ways to distinguish that you had no idea or something like that. But through the conspiracy law, you're just as guilty as a person who pulls the trigger.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I know, like the Maya Brophy Behrman case, you had Sean Pinkerton, who was supposedly the gunman. You had Sean Mann or Isaiah Pinkerton. And then Mann was apparently driving but they both got charged conspiracy
Right.
with the shot. I want to talk about, and if you would walk people through. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about DUI. I think it'd be helpful if you just explain to people. Let's just say this weekend or tonight, whatever. Someone is leaving a restaurant, a bar. They've had a few drinks, and maybe they're not sure. Maybe they don't even realize, but they're pulled over. What exactly do people have to do in that situation?
So I think you just start with the stop. You have a officer coming up behind you. You need to stop. Nothing's going to come from you not stopping. So, you need to pull over. You need to pull over safely. I'd advise people, if you've had a drink or two, people definitely get worried. They might not be under the influence to a degree that they can't safely operate, but people get nervous, dealing with the police. A lot of people charged or investigated for DUIs are people with really very small or lack of a criminal record. So they haven't really encountered the police. So they're going to be nervous. So pull over in a safe spot, have your license out, have your window down, have your car in park. Even though you're nervous, make sure you do all the things that you're supposed to do. Take a deep breath, talk to the police officers. Most of them now have body cam footage. So most of it's on video. A lot of times I tell people if they are drinking, what do I do? I got pulled over, I kind of got caught. I would just tell them, you have a right not to incriminate yourself. You do not need to incriminate yourself. You do not need to, answer questions about how much you've had to drink. You're not required to do field sobriety tests. You don't have to do that, but there's a way to say no politely. And then there's a way to kind of obstruct. And once you obstruct, it gets pretty messy. But typically the police officer will ask you to do field sobriety tests. You can say yes or no. They're on film now, so now it's a lot easier to go through everything. And a lot of police departments will have you take a portable breath test on the side of the road. That test it can be used for probable cause to arrest, but those readings can't come in to prove a DUI with readings. But if you're a borderline on it and you take the PBT test and they throw handcuffs on you, then you know that you're over the legal limit. So at that point, I would advise you not to take the chemical test at the station because they wouldn't have most likely put handcuffs on you if you pass the PBT test. So I would say stay calm, talk to the officers, don't incriminate yourself. And that includes field sobriety tests, a PBT test, breathalyzer at the station, unless you talk to an attorney or that you haven't had anything to drink in the last hour or two.
And do you suggest, I've been with police and they're pulled over and they're moving a lot in the car. And I've seen that puts the police on edge, that someone's moving around a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you're just hiding an open container or something like that, it doesn't look good. All of a sudden you're out of the car a lot faster than you would have been. The police are much more aggressive. They're worried about their safety. They're worried about a weapon in the car. So you're out of the car a lot faster. And it kind of takes investigation from, hey, how are you? Where are you going? Is everything all right? Into what do you have in your car? What are you hiding from me? Right. So I would absolutely, and even your passenger too. I mean, with the headlights, they can see in the car, they can see passengers moving around. So I would stay calm, pull over, talk with a police officer, answer their questions. And then hopefully the officer won't have reasonable suspicion to get you out of the car, ask you to perform tests.
Let me ask, so someone's coming home from dinner and they did have some drinks. Police pull them over, ask if you've been drinking. The person says, yes, I had, some wine with dinner.
Yeah.
And then what if they ask them, or they're saying, all right, I'd like you to get out of the vehicle and do some tests. What happens if the person says, I'm not going to do the tests?
Then the police will, if they have reasonable suspicion and probable cause to think that you're intoxicated. So that could be bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, the odor of liquor, the admission, then they can arrest you right then and there. It'd be a weaker case for the police. The police want to gather as much evidence as they can, but they can, just based on the admission, based on possibly erratic driving, the smell of alcohol, bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, that is absolutely enough to get you arrested and charged with a DUI, and then you would be forced out of the car.
And finally, what should people not do if they've been pulled over? A lot of people, and people need to remember this, Stephanie, the legal limit is 0.08. I've been with police where he did the tests, foot to toe, whatever, and then they blew a 0.07 and got out of there. What should people not do?
I just think you should not incriminate yourself. So, if you can, just politely decline answering questions, giving them evidence. The field sobriety tests are a very nerve-wracking experience. You're pulled over on the side of the road, typically at night, cars are whizzing by you. Even people who could perform the tests in that situation is very, very stressful. It's a very difficult test. It's a divided attention test. You're listening to directions, following the police officer, and then performing a test that you've never done before. So I would probably say politely decline and not give any evidence. And evidence can be spoken, it could be actions, it could be, a bunch of different things. But really don't give them any reason to arrest you. Just try to answer their questions politely, decline everything you can, and then hopefully you won't get arrested. Or if you do, there's lack of evidence and lack of incriminating statements from you that could be helpful to get the best result.
There's a story that was sent to me by one of our viewers, and it's kind of an offshoot, but it's New Bedford man convicted of beating dog with a baseball bat. Now that's extreme, but the woman that's contacted me said she lives in an apartment complex and her neighbor keeps or has in the past called police insisting that she's abusing her. I think she has 2 dogs. I don't remember. What are the rights of someone in that situation? This woman claims that she does discipline them, but it's nothing extreme. But what are the rights of someone where the police are looking into that maybe they're abusing an animal?
Well, I would definitely, first of all, I would probably take my animal to the vet and have a vet go do an examination to show that the animal's not abused. I think that would be a neutral person that could take a look at it and be like, so if the police do show up at your door or want a statement, you can say, hey, listen, I heard this guy is making allegations. He doesn't like me for whatever reason. They're untrue. And I literally, just to help myself, I brought my dog to the vet. The dog got examined and there are no signs of abuse. And I think that would really go a long way with the police if you take that responsibility. But hopefully the police don't investigate, and the dog's absolutely fine. But you have every right to go to a neutral person and have them evaluate the dog if the police are investigating you. And I think that would be a good way to quiet that down.
Now, folks, it's time for Murphy's Law. And Stephanie, if you don't have one, I do have a situation I do want to ask
Oh,
you about.
well, I saw that Carl Montague guy who threatened the police, the president and the attorney general and all that, got indicted in federal court this week. So I thought that was interesting. It's something we talked about with social media, the excuse that he was high on marijuana, which is a federal crime. I just found it very interesting how quickly he got indicted and how serious the Department of Justice are taking these threats. So I just thought it was a good follow-up to a story that we talked about weeks ago.
I like that. And also what I was going to ask you about was the National Guard are now on the streets of DC. There's some man apparently coming from Subway. He's got a sandwich. He's upset. He starts yelling at them. And then he takes his sandwich and throws it at the National Guard, and they caught him and arrested him. Now, that is someone, maybe he's upset. Maybe he doesn't like that there's the National Guard in the streets, but he seems stunned that it's against the law to throw a sandwich at someone.
I mean, I think people don't really realize what an assault or a battery is. And especially on a police officer, it escalates it. Like, you never want to assault anybody, but let alone a law enforcement. It just ups, the charge, ups the crime. But an assault is not necessarily a physical touching. It was in this case with a sandwich. But assault's putting somebody in fear of bodily harm. So, I mean, the fact that sandwich hit him, that definitely is a battery. It's a touching, and it doesn't have to be by that person. It could be by, an item. So with law enforcement, though, everything's really, really escalated in terms of charges, whether it's an assault, or anything else. So,
folks, and again, if you have a question for you, yourself, family member, coworker, call Stephanie. Listen to how knowledgeable and reasonable she is. Ask her, say, hey, here's my situation. Do I need legal counsel? And she'll, walk you through it. Stephanie, great to talk to you again. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Attorney Stephanie Murphy right here on the John DePietro Show. Now, I am going to talk about the latest with Kylie because there are some developments, and we're going to walk you through it. And I know some people want everyone to know, I didn't know about this case. I get it. It just happened. We do have information about it. We have information. Obviously, I was there yesterday. We have more updates about it. There's also there's always some misinformation in it, but I want to walk through what we know. And I know a lot of people are now getting their interest piqued with this case. This portion of the program brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Folks, right now, delicious summer corn, it's right there for you. And they are a full-scale nursery, but whether it's fresh peaches or fresh vegetables or delicious summer corn, they have them at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane, North Kingstown. They grind it. They're open 7 days a week. Stop in on your way home from the beach. Now, I'm going to talk about what we have on depetro.com. And don't forget our website, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, the latest on Kylie. And we were there yesterday. Okay, more people are learning about it. It was possible. I just want her to. Okay. We have a lot of information on depetro.com that you're not going to find anywhere else. I also want to just check one other thing, because folks, we like to, I like to give you the latest. And on a story like this, it's that's not who I'm looking for. One more. Let me check one more thing. I want to check, and I know people sometimes say to me, "You realize you're live, right?" And I say, "Yes, I'm well aware that I am live." Let me just check. That's not the one. And let me just see if they have him. They do not. All right. Okay. Well, I think we do have the latest. Okay. Now, hold on. I just saw what I was looking for. Yep. Okay. The pregnant teen. I'm going to refer you again to the website, depetro.com. Why do I say that? Because there's a lot of people, then there's nothing wrong with it, but they're sometimes, late to a story. They want to get up to speed. What we try to do is fill in the blanks on more than just what the general media is putting out. And what the general media is putting out, you see we have, where is Kylie Montero? And what the police have said, 18 years old. Now we've learned she's 3 months pregnant. Last week was 11 weeks. So this is a week later, 12 weeks. Next week will be 13 weeks. Last seen in the area of County Street, Rehoboth. Now we were there yesterday. I have video up for that. Especially, I believe the subscribers have a little bit more. 6 feet tall, heavy set, light brown hair, brown eyes, carrying a white bag. Residence video surveillance, County Street in Rehoboth. Now, and we have video up, and we have some pictures of someone that she identifies as boyfriend. And it's my understanding he's also the father of the child. So now, let's repeat. In something like this, people just start firing questions. Well, where did her phone last ping? And where did this? And did they start? Listen, you have what the police have put out. As you just heard Stephanie, folks, police, they don't share everything. Because if they share everything, people start changing their story. There's several examples I could give. Actually, the Karen Reed case is a pretty good example. The more she learned, the more she kept changing her story. So first, with Karen Reed, she was saying Colin Albert killed him. And then she learned, well, wait a minute, they have the phone data. He wasn't on the street same time as John. Oh, all right, well, then it was this one. So, there's other situations. If they go to someone, a suspect, and they say, were you out last night? And the person says, no, never left my house. And then the police might say, Well, that's interesting because we have video of your vehicle going down the road at 2 a.m. And then the person says, you know what? You're right. I just remembered. I couldn't sleep, so I went for a ride. And then they may say, well, did you get on the highway? Nope, stayed on the back roads. Well, we have video of you on the highway. You know what? Come to think of it, I did get on the highway. So do you see how that works? So the police don't reveal everything. So people can put all the questions they want. But you have state police involved with this, Rehoboth police. But what no one else has is this guy, Greg Groom. So he lives on the property. He lives on the property, it's my understanding, with his grandparents. Someone I saw put, he lives there with his parents. Well, the mother doesn't live there. And it's my understanding the father's deceased. He's 22 years old. They own 26 acres. Rehoboth is very woodsy. 26 acres, and it goes right to the reservoir. So what do we know about this? So is he cooperating with police? We haven't seen him doing any interviews. I'm going to ask questions and then answer some questions. Have you seen him do an interview? No, but he's on her social media. I have some other video for the subscribers I'm going to be posting where she was trying to do some TikToks with him. Is he cooperating? We haven't heard that from the police. We know that he hasn't done any interviews. Her sister has done some interviews. I don't know how much longer that's going to go on, but you haven't seen him standing next to the sister. I'm just saying, I think that's interesting. Did he hire a lawyer? Well, you just heard from said there's nothing wrong with hiring a lawyer, but I think it's interesting if someone hires an attorney. Is he helping in the search? We haven't heard that. We haven't heard anything about that Greg Groom is helping with the search. Now, what happened that night? Now, who's the other girl? There's another girl in the mix here. There's another girl in the mix. And I'm going to reveal that a little bit later to the subscribers. So here he is, 22 years old. Let's just say Rehoboth police are familiar with the property. If you go onto petro.com, Kylie Montero in a relationship with Greg Groom. And I have found a lot more. There's some TikToks the two of them were doing. It's a little bizarre. They're in a barn. She's in a prom dress. Maybe she had a little bit of a tough life. But we've also, people are asking if the police search. It's my understanding the police have searched the property with a canine, but we have not heard that police have executed any search warrants on the house or the barn or any of the structures there. Now, there is a difference, but let's talk about that. She was living there on and off. So what does that mean? Well, it means that her DNA would be there. That would be different. I'm gonna ask and answer some of my own questions. Why is that significant? Because that would be different than sometimes someone finds a good example I'll just give is Ron Goldman. Ron Goldman had never met O.J. Simpson, and then his blood was in the Bronco. That's, it should have been a problem, but it wasn't a problem. In something like this, are they going to find some of her hair in and around the property? I would think so. If she was staying there, or the person could say, yeah, she had been here before. So she wasn't a stranger. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that could be useful in executing search warrants for devices or searching the property. But right now, it's my understanding the police have not, there's been no report that the police have searched the property. And I'm just saying the obvious, which is he's not speaking. So we have another update that's going to be coming up. Now, most of the media, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they're all kind of saying the same thing, which is just there's no update. Police, here's what you should understand. You have to get a judge to sign off. You have to get a judge to sign off. Just because she maybe stayed there on and off, that's not an automatic that they can go and search there. It has to normally be a little bit more than that. And so police continue the search. For instance, I'm going to look at the Channel 12 story, and I just don't think there's anything new. Back on Rehoboth, 18-year-old woman, last seen last Thursday, County Street, Rehoboth. Faith Montero, I am in touch with the family. Now, she was going to join us coming up. I think they're going to go quiet on a lot of the interviews right now. She just graduated. Kylie did, from Attleboro High School. Now, Channel 12 is still saying 11 weeks, but she was 11 weeks, my understanding, last week. So that would make her a full 3 months. We were there yesterday where the reservoir is. And if you saw that, that is, now they have no new information. And there's nothing against them because they're just going with what the police. And those of you that follow, you know, we dig in a little bit more, and we search resumes in Rehoboth. Yep. A reported missing canine. Channel 10 left messages, Rehoboth State Police, Bristol County. They're not speaking. So what is significant about, we're the only ones that have Greg Groom. I don't know him. I'm just pointing out what I think are some things, and these are, and I know that he's, you know, they're watching this stuff, but we're, you know, if you type in the boyfriend, the only thing that comes up is the posting on DePietro.com. Yes, Greg Groom. Again, we don't know. I'm not ready to say, is he a, you know, people like to say, people ask a lot of questions. I understand that. And part of it, there's several things about this. Number one, people just start, there are some people who just ask questions to ask questions. They think that's their thing. They just fire away questions. And if you don't have it, then they feel, you know, well, what are the details? It doesn't work that way. I just shared with you with both what the media is reporting. Now we try to go beyond that. For instance, yesterday morning, we were the only ones there showing the, you know, the divers. When other media saw the video, then they went, and the stuff about the boyfriend. Now there's more info about the case we're going to be posting, but some of the things that people are asking, is there a person of interest? The police have not said. Where did her phone last ping? The police have not said. I know the answer to that, but the police have not said that. Where is her phone? The police have not said. Do you understand? I've already shared what the police have shared. I'm not saying those aren't valid questions, but they're not questions that have been put, that the police have released right now. And what I've tried to do is explain why the police don't fill in the blank. So the police, they you know, as you heard Stephanie Murphy saying, they have info on that other suspect in Cranston. They're just not releasing it. You know, it's also interesting. Sometimes I have people reach out to me and they're connected to someone that's wanted and they're trying to find out information. Did you hear whether or not the police, if they have an idea who the suspect, I mean, I get that sometimes. I don't answer. But folks, this portion of our program, speaking of Rehoboth, Propane Plus, they're based there, 401-885-4209. For all your propane needs, call Propane Plus, 508-252-3359. If you use propane, you want to use Propane Plus. They have a very user-friendly website. They're available 24/7, residential or commercial. It's Propane Plus. Again, call them today, 401-885-4209, or Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. There's also, my experience, we learned a lot with the Charlotte Lester case. And sometimes people come out of the woodwork, and sometimes there's a lot of private property. There's a lot of private property in Rehoboth. And if you saw the video we have from yesterday, if you haven't, we have it up on DePietro.com. Boy, it's really woodsy. I mean, that is dense, thick. I was going through, there's all kinds of trails. Now think of the house where the boyfriend is, or was, or is. Something happened. Something happened last Thursday, last Friday. Last Thursday was the last time I believe she was seen or communicating with anyone. But there's all kinds of trails down to the water. We don't know if they have some kind of I mean, it didn't look that deep, but parts of that could be deep. If it's 5 feet deep, you could have like a little kayak, or you could have something that you could go out into that on. But you saw those divers. If you've seen the video yesterday, that's why I put it up. I mean, that's pretty thick. So, but 26 acres, that's a big piece of land. And there's several structures. And she had been there. There's pictures of her at the barn there. And so she would stay there sometimes. I believe she's carrying his child. So, yeah, her DNA would be all over. But then there's just certain situations that I want to point this out. Many times eyewitnesses, people are not perfect. People think they see things, people think they saw something, heard something, and it's not accurate. And I'll give you an example. With Charlotte Lester, there was someone who knew her that said, I think I saw her a week after, after she went missing. And he told that to the police. Now, he was wrong, and he's kind of a crackpot, but he didn't see her. He was wrong. Simple as that. I'll mention the Karen Reed case. She had that officer, Kelly Devers, who she initially said, yeah, they were back in the Sally Port for a long amount of time. Then they determined she wasn't even working then. People just, they don't remember things. Human memory is wrong. That's why police, they have cell phone data, they have DNA evidence, they have video surveillance, they utilize a lot of other tracking devices because people are not perfect. I had someone on the TikTok page saying, I think I saw her in Providence this morning. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that she did? No, she just thinks that she did. So it didn't stop this person from putting it out that she thought she saw her. I don't know what to make of that. But there are people like this that just come out of the woodwork. Like I said, there's a girl on TikTok saying, I was on the property and his parents were there. His father's dead. The mother doesn't even live there. I don't even know who that is. The family doesn't even know who she is. Do you see people just start coming out of the woodwork? That's one of the reasons why I go to the scene, because I want to see. And there's all these crackpots that float around, and there's all these things that just happen. You learn what I have learned. You learn a lot by going, because then people in the know, they can tell that you're there. And that's one of the reasons they reach out. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you. And remember, when disaster strikes, you have fire or flood or mold, ServPro of Providence. Restoration, reliability, results. If you have a fire or water damage or anything like that, ServPro of Providence. Online, servproprovidence.com, or you can also call them. And they're very responsive, 24/7, 401-941-5500. I share their social media. But if you have a fire or a pipe and suddenly you have water damage, by the way, if you have fire, you're going to have water damage because then they flood the place. Or mold, ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. Now, let's see. Let me just, I want to check to just see if there's any other update right now. I'm going to be, yeah, okay. That makes sense. All right. I want to repeat, I have state police do a great job. Don't listen. I get it. I get the whole thing with Sandra Birchmore. Police can't be everywhere, and there are mistakes made. But by and large, I back the blue. Many of you know that. Police do a good job. Massachusetts State Police do a very good job. We were in North Kingstown this morning. There's the Rhode Island State Police right there with the North Kingstown Police. I admit I went a little heavy on the trooper that drove off from the DUI stop, but by and large, every police force, 99% of them, solid. Massachusetts State Police, there's nothing wrong with the Brian Walsh investigation. There are a lot of anti-police people out there. I get that, but it doesn't. It's not all of them. And I'm telling you, number one, the Brian Walsh case. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that investigation. I have no idea why some people. You can't trust. You can't trust. Nope, that's not him. How come I can't find him? Is that him? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let's see. Nope, he doesn't. All right, he doesn't have any update. That's why. There was a reporter that I was told is in Rehoboth, and I was trying to see if he had an update, but the reason why I don't think he was coming up is because he doesn't have any update on it. So let me just see, since we are live, but I have some new information that's going to be coming out. On this. And actually, for those of you that have been watching Road Patrol, folks, the past couple of nights we've been out. When I finish around 9, I've been up till midnight working this case. So, yep. See, then you have the people that start stealing my stuff. The plagiarists are out. Let me just check. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Yep. So terrible. I don't know. We don't know where she is. And then you see some of the other comments. Oh, good. You see some of the comments of people. Maybe she just needed to go to clear her head. She doesn't have a vehicle. She has no money. And she was communicating with people every single day. So, New York Post has it. Pregnant high school grad shared unsettling concern about before vanishing after an argument with the boyfriend. Yep. That's exactly. After an argument with the boyfriend. That's never good. Last seen August 7th, County Street, Rehoboth. Last heard from her through a text message. They fear for her safety. Yep. So Wednesday night was the last time they heard from her, but they did get a text message from her. She also, they're doing all they can right now. Very active on social media, especially on TikTok and Snapchat. Nothing has appeared on her accounts. All true. I want to just check. So, folks, again, I don't want to be redundant here. We've seen there's definitely a pattern where something is off, some kind of an argument, and then suddenly someone goes disappearing, and there's no the person in question is then acting a little strange, to say the least. Or as I said, her sister Faith, the family, she was speaking out. She was doing the right thing, trying to put the word out. And, for now, though, it needs to be one voice with the police. So I think you're going to see the police. The only thing that's going to come out is from them. But I also just want to say, from being out there, you see what a large piece of property that is. Number one, so that Greg Groom, the boyfriend, it's my understanding he lives there with the grandparents. And father deceased, mother doesn't live there. But that's 26 acres. That's a big piece of land. And there's other big land around there. And it's private property. So people have said, people have reached out to me. Can we go search? Well, right now, I mean, the Massachusetts State Police, Rehoboth Police, they can't put any more manpower into this. They're using canines. They're using the drone. They have the divers. That's a big area. Right now, she is still just missing. It's a week later. She's missing. The more people that know about it, that's a positive. So what we're trying to do is put the word out there. And at the same time, I think I'm asking some pretty reasonable questions about the family, Greg Groom, and his family, who I'm not seeing speaking out. I'm not seeing standing next to the sister. I'm not seeing him saying, please, we need to find her. Nothing like that. Very, very quiet. And I want to repeat, police have not revealed that they have executed search warrants. I know some people, you also got to remember, Massachusetts, they're pretty, as we've seen, defense friendly. And if you execute a search warrant, but it's not done properly with the right criminal defense attorney, we've seen what can happen. Folks, this portion of our program, now Kids Club on the Pike. People are always asking about Kids Club on the Pike because it serves different dimensions. For instance, they still have this summer camp going on. So maybe your child or grandchild, Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So they have the summer camp going on right now. But then with kids, and they're located right off of 295, and they're right on Plainfield Pike, is Kids Club on the Pike. Right off 295, they're on the Cranston-Johnston line. You can call them at 401-443-5336. It's also the perfect spot to have a birthday party for children or have any type of celebration for children. Maybe you want to throw a little party for your, children and some of their friends for the end of the school year, or maybe the beginning of the school year. They do a birthday party venue, but they also do before and after school care, and they have a preschool program as well. Kids Club on the Pike. They do a fantastic job. Call them 401-443-5336. So, and someone also asked me, who is it that I recommend? Brian asked, who is it that carries all the landscape materials? Brian, you want to contact Sean at Watson Materials. They have it all. 401-885-0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, decorative stone. Call Sean, request a quote, Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. It's inspiring to see some of the things that people are able to do with their outside property. So we have covered, I also am communicating with, I know, let's hope so, Lynn Miller. It's so frightening. This young girl, 18 years old, just graduated. Now we believe that he's the father, this Greg Groom, who lives with the grandparents, but they don't, it's my understanding they don't all live in one house. Hey, if you have 26 acres, that's a compound. So it's a big piece of property and it backs right up to that body of water. It's a big body of water right in Rehoboth. You have a lot of woods. You do have water. It's swampy. Right now, she is still, I want to be very clear, this is still a missing persons case. I want to be very clear with people that are following the story. They have not announced any person of interest. Nope. They have not deemed anyone to be a suspect. That has not happened. They have not said at this point that this is just a recovery mission. Nope. That has not been said. What is somewhat, obviously alarming is she conveyed to her family some kind of a fight with him. And then suddenly she is 3 months pregnant and disappears and has gone silent. Now, let's be reasonable about it. If someone, let's just say she took off, well, you could still communicate with your family if you took off. You could still be active on social media if you took off. Where is her phone? Police haven't said that. Are they in possession of her phone? They haven't said that. Would she ever leave without her phone? Not from what we understand. So is it possible she's staying with someone? I guess it's possible. Right now, the police are just trying to gather information about her. And I think what you're also going to see on this Thursday is the police are going to take command of the communication on this. And then, we're going to see what more information they have. But it doesn't mean people can't ask questions. But I think it's always important to keep delivering consistent themes, because people don't read, as we've learned. People just like to ask questions for whatever reason. What was the nature of the fight? We don't know. So I don't know. But there are some videos that I have found that I'm going to post of her that she made in June, TikToks, and she's saying she loves him. I've heard from people that he could be very possessive, the boyfriend, but we haven't seen the boyfriend saying, where is she? We haven't heard what was the nature of the argument. What was that over? I agree with people. There's a lot about this that we don't know. That's certainly fair to say. But right now, we're just trying to build awareness. And also, there is a difference. This is someone who's missing. There are sometimes a runaway. Sometimes there's a runaway teen, many times. This doesn't sound like that. This is someone who has basically vanished. No communication. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Remember, call Corey today. Get your garage epoxied. They do a fantastic job in doing what a difference it makes if they epoxy your garage or patio and decorative concrete flooring. They do pickleball, tennis, basketball. They'll resurface it all. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. I share their Facebook page. Get your garage epoxied. It's not a huge project, and it'll be fantastic. Or your patio, and it makes a huge difference. Decorative concrete flooring, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. So repeat, we were busy earlier. There was an armed standoff in Wickford Point. That's a nice development, by the way. Seemingly has resolved peaceful. But also, I'm going to have more information, subscribers, on what happened on Union Avenue in Warwick. New information on that on the subscriber page. And also, but the big news, there is still no update on the missing pregnant 18-year-old girl, Kylie. Still no update on that. The search continues in Rehoboth. So if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else will be back later. I'm not sure. Either Road Patrol Live or we'll do an update on the missing girl. So, but check out the website, depetro.com. And I don't know what Lynn Miller is talking about. I don't know, Lynn. Not from me. Not from me, Lynn. Thank you, Ron Marshall. Lynn, I don't know who said that. Lynn, not from me. Did someone say that? A little bit different. True. A little bit different. I'm not saying never, but he's a little tough to track down at the moment. So you realize we're just 1 week in. Lynn, I don't know what that is, Lynn. Lynn Miller. Not from me. Folks, check it out. This is the Check depetro.com for those that keep saying what happened. No. What is they have not spoken out to my knowledge. I don't know who they is. Folks, always possible. Right now, everybody's going quiet. I don't know. Okay. All right, we're going to be back later on. It doesn't look good, Christina.